Hey there folks, and welcome to this video. This is a general notice where I kick off the week and apparently kick off the fan on my computer as I talk about what's coming up in the week ahead on this channel and talk about a couple of things that are going on in the world of motorsport. You can find the timestamps to the sections you want to look at in the description section down below or in the chapters section of this video. But without further ado, let's get on with it. And starting off, later today you can expect a preview for Acropolis Rally Greece. Oh wow, it is getting warm in here. I'm going to try and open the door and see if that makes my computer slightly happier. Sorry about the creaking door there, folks. The preview for the Acropolis Rally should be out later today. And then on Wednesday, I'm expecting to do a review for Formula E in Jakarta and potentially a preview for the Spa 24. On Thursday, I'm hoping to get a preview out for F1 in Austria and a review for the 6 Hours of the Glen. And then on Friday, a review for the Nürburgring 24 Hours. I haven't properly watched, well, really any of it. I've watched some of the highlights for it, but 24-hour race doesn't feel apt to, you know, watch 24-minute highlight reel and say that you've done enough watching on it. On Saturday, I'm putting out a preview for the ERC Rally di Roma Capitale, which I believe is next weekend. And then on Sunday, a review for Acropolis Rally Greece. On Monday, I'm hoping to get a review out for F1 in Austria. And then on Tuesday, a review for the Spa 24. Whilst the next general notice is currently scheduled to be next Wednesday. Alongside a preview for World Rallycross's Magic Weekend at Holliers. On the channel side of it. And wow. Turns out switching cameras is so intense that my fans have to go into overdrive. Is it getting hot in here from the PC or is it just me? The channel's been doing okay. I've noticed a dip in viewership, but that is because I've not been publishing shorts. And it appears that short form content generates a lot of views now. It might just be because of the way that it recommends it to people. But, yeah, in terms of the most viewed stuff for the past while, it is still all short. If I go to the last 7 days alone, 548 views for my short on Steve Ryder. And then after that, the stuff about the Le Mans, whether or not it was the best Triple Crown race in 2025. And then there's some longer form stuff. BTCC preview for Alton Park. The Race 07 video is still doing numbers, and actually it's the highest in terms of average view. No, it's not the highest in terms of average view duration out of the top 10, but in terms of average minutes, it might be. After that, it's the RBR 2020 mod. Then it's the preview for BTCC at Alton Park. Then it's WRC 27. Then it's my 100% review for EAWRC. Then it's my Rennsport video, and then it's my preview for NURB 24, which is a really low view time to be on here. It's lower than the short that I have on Steve Ryder. Over at the other place, Cav Sim Racing Encyclopedia. I've been doing quite a bit of content recently over there. The way I'm working it is one video per week and then a short form video every day, and then the occasional live stream. So if you're wondering where my Motorsport UK live streams were, if you're somebody who also follows me over on Twitch, they're now going over there. You can find the channel linked in the description section down below. And in some ways, I think it's actually produced more views and more watch hours than this channel. But given that this one's got 1,000 subscribers and that one's gotten 6, it's to do with the algorithm. It is absolutely to do with the algorithm, and I can see that there. But anyways, enough talking about algorithms. Let's talk about motorsports news, and I'm going to start off with the world of Formula E. Because in Formula E, it turns out that Citroën could be about to join. Stellantis is currently evaluating what it's doing for branding for next year, and it has been long rumoured that there are going to be some branding changes. Whether or not that's a departure of the DS and Maserati brands was not necessarily clear. But now it appears that it's gotten clearer. With Citroën supposedly taking over from Maserati and Opel also coming in. I spoke about that, I think, previously on the channel, the idea that Opel would come in as one of these Stellantis teams. But yeah, Citroën back with a works, I guess it might be through sponsorship, motorsport program. Now, what do? It's not necessarily clear. It could be that they take over the MSG entry, the one that's the current Maserati one. It could be that they team up with Penske, though Penske are understood to be looking at a Porsche partnership, which links up with the Penske Porsche Motorsport programs in WEC and IMSA. It could also mean that you have a nicer way in which the drivers are shared. It could also mean that Porsche might be looking at pulling out, and so there might be another team on the market, because one of the things that's supposedly complicating this is what's going on with McLaren. The Neon McLaren team will be exiting at the end of the season because Neon are ending their sponsorship, I believe. I believe that's the motivating factor that McLaren is citing. The team that was formerly the Mercedes team is Nissan powered. Nissan have their works entry with the what was known as the EDAM squad. What's going to be going on next? Well, it's not exactly clear. It could even be that next season we have 24 cars, or even for the start of Gen 4 we have 24 cars on the grid. But most likely, it looks like they'll take over an existing franchise or entry, if not in naming rights, and outright running the show. I would say that McLaren would have seemed like the most logical one to do, but it's not exactly clear yet. What is clearer, however, is another regs and rule change for next year that is to do with endurance racing, because, well, it appears that the Asian Le Mans Series in 2026 is going to have a Pro-Am privateer hypercar class. There are different outfits weighing up what they're going to do here. JDC Miller supposedly are going to be planning an entry with the Porsche 963, though it has also appeared to be the case that Isotta Fraschini and Van Wall, or the kind of bicolors Van Wall outfit, are eyeing up entries there as well. Now, Van Wall has also been touted with a WEC entry next year. The differences between WEC and ALMS is if you're doing a full factory WEC entry, you need to have 2 cars. That's why Lamborghini left. That's why Isotta Fraschini decided to leave WEC as well. Well, that and funding issues. But this Asian Le Mans series means that it gets a lot more financially viable because you can have a Pro-Am. The Am could be the person who brings the funding, and then the Pro could be the person that helps you develop the car. Especially if you're looking at the privateer WEC side of it as well. Which is where it complicates things for teams like the Floyd Van Wall entry and also Isotta Fraschini. They're probably not looking at necessarily a WEC entry unless they can get the funding to run 2 cars. So I'd be interested to see what happens here. Could we see for example, the 83 AF Corsa out there? I think it's good that it's going for the Asia Le Mans series because in theory, you don't need it for ELMS, the European one, which is currently P2, P3 and GT3. Because, well, WEC is largely European. You've got IMSA representing the North American market. And then you can have the ALMS representing the Asian market. Heck, you could even expand it a bit further and have it be Asia and Oceania. A kind of Asia-Pacific Championship, like we have the Asia-Pacific Rally Championship. And that could be pretty cool. Allows you to then expand out further and have a round in, well, Australia, for instance. There are plenty of venues in Australia that could do an Asian Le Mans Series race. I'm just spitballing ideas here, but that feels like it'd be a good idea. I mean, it'd be a shame for the LMP2s that are currently the leading class. And hopefully they won't get boxed out as a result. But that's my idea. Anyways, last week's one, I was talking about something that had happened the week before. So now I want to talk about something that happened last week that I don't think I got a chance to talk about at the time. And the thing that I want to talk about is the Ferrari disqualification from Le Mans. Now, I've seen a lot of clickbaity people saying, oh, Ferrari disqualified over FlexiWing. And it's because they're F1 outfits. They're like, oh, I can talk about Ferrari and WEC here. And then you could maybe throw in Kubica as well, or F1 stars, because the number 50 was the one that had Antonio Fuoco, who was a former Ferrari protege and touted as one for the future. I remember Arav as my driver back in the day had Fuoco making the grid. Now, it does affect their title bid, which is probably the bigger deal for them when it comes to WEC. Especially compared to, well, 4th place in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But, yeah. means that the 51's lead would, instead of being 24 points, be 48 points. But either way, let's talk about what happened. Supposedly, the rear wing deflection was 52 millimeters, and the maximum deflection you can get is 15 millimeters. Now, that means that the wings were doing a bit of this. Supposedly, in the final pit stop, a Ferrari mechanic recognised a bolt was missing. They're like, oh, it's just the one bolt. And then post-race tech found 4 bolts missing. Now, it did so happen that also, after they recognised that bolt was missing, the Ferrari clocked its fastest speed of the weekend. So, it could be that it was a mechanical failure that meant that the car ended up being in an illegal state. See Ferrari's flawed disqualification in the Chinese Grand Prix this year. Not Ferrari's fault, necessarily. It could just be wear and tear, but them's the brakes, pal. That's what the rules say, and that's what the rules do. There are lots of people who are crying Ferrari international assistance here. And they're saying, what if the 83 failed? What if the 51 also failed? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think if they thought it was the case, the FIA would actually investigate it. But it is what it is here. They broke the rules, they got punished. And that's the way that I see it. It's a shame because lots of people will put asterisks next to the other Ferraris. I would say, if you're trying Ferrari bias, the best thing to look at instead is BOP. But, yeah, the other teams can't talk about it lest they want to receive a massive fine from the FIA. Anyways, those are my thoughts, those are my feelings, those are my observations. Thanks so much for joining, folks, and apologies that the fan was back to its normal, loud ways. There's not been a reset, it's just warm. Until next time, it's bye-bye for now.